Then we're going to turn it over to our esteemed travel club members. Dave and Lisa, any other?
Almost around the world.
Almost around the world. So, do I have it right? This was scheduled originally for 160?
155 days.
155. They made it through 111. They'll tell the story, and there we go.
Okay. We're going to tag team this, Lisa and I. I'll do the intro, and then she'll do some parts, and I'll do some parts. So, we wanted to take a round-the-world cruise for quite a while, mostly me. Lisa was willing to go along. We've done a number of longer cruises, 60, 90, 100 days, so we weren't really concerned about the length of time. But we both had a must stop. Lisa had the Philippines and I had India. And after looking at world cruises out there, we rapidly found out that Azamara was the only cruise line that went to both of those. So these were the original countries. It was supposed to be 155 days, visiting 36 countries, plus some overnights if you wanted to do those. And the countries that are new to us are the ones in bold. The ones with the asterisk are overnight stops. Anyway, before we ever started, there was the problem in Israel. So that took out Israel, and there was unrest in the ports of Ecuador, so that went away. Then there's a tropical cyclone, or excuse me, tropical depression near cyclone, which meant we were going to miss Cook Islands. And then the ship decided that we weren't going to go through the Red Sea.
Oh my gosh.
So it went from 155 days in 36 countries to 111 days in 22 countries.
Wow.
And rather than focusing on the whole trip, because we couldn't possibly do it in the time we have, we're focusing on 4 countries, which we think are kind of more interesting. Rapa Nui, which is the island name for Easter Island, Papua New Guinea, Bhutan, and India. Is that microphone down?
Yeah. Is that good?
A
Okay.
little closer.
Really good. You're a pro at this, Cynthia. Okay, can you see me? Okay. Rapa Nui is located in the middle of the South Pacific and is part of Chile. It is known for being one of the most remotely inhabited islands in the world. To give you a sense of the isolation, Pitcairn Island is the closest inhabited island, which is about 1,300 miles away. And Santiago, Chile is 2,300 miles away, or 6 hours by plane. We learned that Rapa Nui is the name for the people, the language, and the island known to us as Easter Island. It was a name given by a Dutch explorer who discovered it on Easter Sunday in 1722. The islanders do not like the name Easter Islands, they're very clear on that, and they identify themselves as Polynesians, not Chileans. There are roughly 8,600 people living on the island, and less than half of the inhabitants are Polynesian or Rapa Nui. The islanders restrict the amount of people visiting and living on the island to protect their culture and environment. There are roughly 100,000 tourists each year, which provides about 8% of their economy. Visits are limited to 30 days. The locals refuse to build a large port, and tenders from ships must be taken, and that's how we got there. There are no outside businesses, and only Rapa Nui can buy property, which has to be proven through a blood test that they have the DNA. The island is rather harsh, with a single beach and a few harbors. Most of the people live on the west side of the island near Hangaroa. The interior of the island has hills and farms. The island is famous for its tiny pineapples, which are very sweet and delicious. There are sheep, goats, and horses that roam freely, and it was quite comfortable at 71 degrees in January. There are approximately 900 male statues called moai around the island, believed to be built between 1100 and 1650 AD. On the average, the moai stand 13 feet tall and weigh 14 tons. The statues are mostly along the coast. Other than at the quarry, all the statues that are upright today have been carefully re-erected. The statues have heads on torsos that end on the top of the thighs. It is believed that the statues represent the spirits of ancestral chiefs who were descended from gods and whose powers could be harnessed for protection and fertility. Power was thought to be in the head, which is why the head is 1/3 of the statue. The statues are made of stone created by hardened volcanic ash or tuff found in the extinct volcano Rapa Nui, the quarry on the island. Many of the platforms are called ahu, also served as burial chambers for the royal families. On the first day we visited, the Tahai ceremonial complex where we saw 3 platforms with restored moai. Ahu Kote is a single moai about 17 feet tall with restored eyes and a top knot, which represents hair, but fewer people believe that it's a hat. Ahu Tahai was the first shrine at this location and gives its name to the complex. It's about 15 feet tall. Ahu Vai Uri supports 5 moai of varying sizes and shapes. Next we went to Ahu Akivi. Here the 7 moai are equal shape and size, but are the only moai that face the sea. They are located inland rather than along the coast, and they face sunset during the spring equinox, and their backs face the sunrise during the autumn equinox. Each statue is 16 feet tall and about 18 tons. The 3rd platform we visited was Ahu Raya Top. This is unrestored and walkable from the pier. It was weathered and not as notable as the restored statues. The next day we drove to Reno Raraku, the quarry, which is located in the middle of the island. There the moai are in all stages of production as well as the tools used to build them. There are moai in the process of being carved, moved, torn down, and erected. Many statues stand buried up to the chest or neck or lie where they toppled. Nearly half the moai on the island are in the quarry. It is the largest collection of monoliths in one place in the world. There was one group of carvers that were commissioned to do the work. It is believed that one statue was carved by 30 men and took about a year to complete. The thinking is that the carvers began by working on the front and sides of the moai, then they separated the back from the quarry walk. The statue would then be moved downhill and placed upright in a hole where the carvers would finish the back. After the statues were carved, it was moved to one of the villages where they would be placed on platforms facing inland to protect the villagers and make them prosperous. One theory as to how the statues were moved is that they were rolled on logs. Another is that ropes were tied around the statue and rocked to move it forward like walking. The eye sockets were not carved until the moai were erected in place to awaken the moai's power. The black eyes are made of obsidian and the white portion is from coral. Very few eyes remain, which I thought was a good thing because they looked rather odd. The quarry is not a place to miss. If you're going to go, this is the one thing. If you can only see one thing, see this. Abu Tongariki, sorry about all these difficult pronunciations. It's on the east side of the island, and it is the largest abu with 15 moai. The tallest statue in the moai is the heaviest on the island, estimated to be, you ready for this? 172,000 pounds. The moai have visible carved hands and face sunset during the winter solstice. It is really grand. The solo statue, called the Traveling Man, faces the entrance to the site. It was used to study how the statues were moved. Next we went to Ahu Nau Nau on Anakena Beach. It has 7 moai on a canoe-shaped platform. They are 13 feet high and represent the high-ranking chiefs of the Miru clan, where the first king of the island, Ariki Hotu Matua, established the first settlement. 4 of the moai have large top knots, and the backs of the statues have fine tattoo markings. I'm sorry you can't see the tattoos, but don't have a picture of that. Ahu Atur Hoki is next to Ahu Naunau. It is a much larger statue and was the first moai to be re-erected by Norwegian explorer Thor Heyerdahl in 1956. It is 20 feet high, 10 feet wide, and weighs 28 tons. I need to say something about the religion on the island today. The Catholic missionaries in the mid-1800s had a very lasting impression. When the missionaries came, they suppressed local customs. The Roman Catholicism remains the primary religion on the island. Today, Catholic Church Iglesia Hangaroa, which is in this slide, features a blend of Christian and Rapa Nui art and architecture. For example, the church's wooden statue of the Virgin Mary resembles a moai, and Jesus has a bird head and extended wings for arms. So they've kind of blended the cultures there. Rapa Nui religion persists, but is practiced by only about 5% of the population. Rapa Nui is a fascinating and unique place to visit, but aside from the moai, it did not offer enough for us to desire a return visit. We think if you take a private tour, you could visit all the sites we saw in one day.
Next stop is Papua New Guinea. New Guinea, the whole island, is the second largest island after Greenland, and Papua New Guinea is the eastern half of the island, with the other half of the island belonging to Indonesia. It was a territory of Australia from the First World War until 1975, when it became part of the British Commonwealth with its own prime minister. There's 7,000 tribes, 839 known languages spoken, making it the most linguistically diverse country in the world. However, the people we interacted with spoke English, which is taught in schools, and each cultural group has its own form of art, dance, costumes, singing, and music, which was fascinating. 95% of the population is Christian, of which 70% are Protestants and 25% Roman Catholics. The missions provide health centers, schools, and trading centers. Much of the education is provided by churches. The government itself does not provide much in the way of education. Mostly it's provided by churches. It's one of the poorest countries we've ever visited. There's no electricity, water, or sewer service outside of the main towns. They have pit toilets and collect water off roofs or from streams. This woman is doing her laundry in that stream. The houses are without windows, or many of them, I shouldn't say all of them, but many of them. And the walls are made from woven mats of palm trees and thatched or tin roofs, and are raised on stilts because of flooding. They're mostly dirt roads. Most of the people live in small villages with subsistence farms. The diet includes fish, sweet potato, taro, cassava, breadfruit, coconut, and other fruits. And they make their own flour from a sago palm. This is a roadside market. Something that Lisa finds really fascinating, so it's in here, is the betel nut. So, and it's not only in New Guinea that they eat this, but it comes from the areca palm tree, and it's mixed with a mustard stick, and then they grind up coral for lime, and they dip the mustard stick in the lime and stir it around with the betel nut and chew it. And it is a stimulant, gives you a feeling of euphoria, and it is addictive. And they also have a very high rate of oral cancer in the country. So So our first stop was Alatoa, and it's on the northeastern shore of Milton, doesn't matter. It's down on the south end of Papua New Guinea. And it's about 16,000 people, 85 degrees, muggy and overcast when we were there in March. It was hot. First place and you can see the city there. The first place we went to was the Mananaunau beach retreat, where we saw dancers, a little recreated village, people weaving palm fronds into baskets, and the ladies, and there's actually a gentleman there, they're chopping the sago out from inside the palm tree, and then they bleach it with water and it turns into that orange juice down at the bottom. And then they dry that and make flour oil. Our second port of call was Madang in the northern coast. Its population is larger, about 30,000 people. It was 90 degrees, hot and miserable. First place we went to was Bilbil Village. And it's interesting, you can see that car parked on the right corner underneath these places. So it's pretty in an idyllic way, I guess, but it's pretty rough. They put on a demonstration of pottery, where they make pots. They don't use a spinning wheel, it's all hand. They hollow out the inside with a stone, and then they beat the outside with a flat board. Then they, before they fire it in an open fire, they put some red clay on it to give it a glossy red and black color. From there, we went to, here's our toilet facilities. They offered it to us. It was very clean, I will say that, but nobody took them up on the offer. Then we went to the Balak Nature Reserve, and it's again, these aren't like make-up places. These people live in these places. And in the bottom, from the bottom left going up, you can see the walkway to get from across the stream to your house. It was very peaceful there. This water has got a lot of sulfur in it, but it's got this bluish cast, very, very lovely. And beautiful heliconia is probably 6 feet tall, that one flower in the center. And the turtles seem to like the water. It was supposed to be drinkable, but we did it. From there, we went to the Madang Cultural Center. This is supposed to look like a New Guinea spiritual house. And they don't allow you to take pictures. I could get this off the internet. But it was interesting inside. They had masks and carved boats and headrests and statues and beads and old tools. And it was really quite interesting. One of the things the ship provided was at Kalibobo Village, they had a bunch of different people from areas of Papua New Guinea doing traditional dances. And the costumes varied depending on where the dancers were from, and it was really fascinating. Probably the most memorable group were these guys called the Mudmen from Asaro. And the legend is that they were being defeated by an enemy tribe, so they sought refuge in the Asaro River. When they emerged, they were covered in mud. And the enemy mistook them for spirits and fled in fear. And the Mudmen believed that the mud is poisonous, so they don't put it on their face, and therefore they made these caps that they wear. If you drove around, the people were really friendly. This is a store on the side of the road. They're selling candy, and you can update your cell phone. They provide that service. But the people really smiled and waved and seemed to be happy. Where they sold handicrafts, the people weren't pushy. They were really laid back and nice. It was very nice. It's such a blend of such different things: rainforest valleys, coastal mangrove swamps, coral reefs. If you really like nature, this is a wonderful place to go. We didn't see much in the way of wildlife, but what we saw was just really spectacular. Now,
Okay, Bhutan. See it up there? It's a small country of only 800,000 people, surrounded by Nepal, China, and India. It's a Buddhist kingdom on the edge of the Himalayas. It is a constitutional monarchy with a king as head of state and a prime minister as head of government. Up until 1971, Bhutan maintained a culture and economic policy of isolation to preserve its cultural heritage and independence. To give you an example, radio service for 30 minutes only on Sundays began in 1973. TV broadcasts started in 1999 and internet service in 2000. In 1974, tourists were allowed to visit in limited numbers, and by 2020 it has reached 323,000. Due to its unique culture and traditions, Bhutan was our favorite country we visited. We flew from Bangkok, Thailand into Paro International Airport. We were able to see the spectacular Himalayas on our flight, including Bhutan's tallest mountain, Gangkhar Phusam. It is the 40th tallest mountain in the world at 24,840 feet, 4,192 feet shorter than Mount Everest. Our guide and driver met us at the airport. Isn't this a beautiful airport? And drove us to Thimphu, the capital, which is about an hour and a half away. On our drive, we learned that there are roundabouts, but no traffic lights in the country. We went in April, and the temperature was in the low 60s, but it felt much warmer and was very pleasant. Our guides took us to the Buddha Dordina, one of the tallest sitting statues in the Buddha in the world. It is made of bronze, gilded in gold, and is 169 feet high. Inside, there are more than 100 similar replica Buddhas, 100,000, smaller replica Buddhas. Vajrayana, a form of Mahayana Buddhism, is a state religion representing 75% of the population. Hinduism is the second, representing 22% of the population. The four mythical guardian animals in Buddhism are the Garuda bird, dragon, snow lion, and tiger, which are on the exterior building exteriors. The next day we traveled from Thimphu back to Paro, and we crossed over the Paro River on a bridge adjacent to the chain bridge built in 1420. Can you show? That's the 1420 bridge. I wasn't going to take that one. We had to go across this bridge to get to the Takin Lakayan temple. Today it's a private monastery run by descendants of Thang Tong Galpo, who was known as the Iron Bridge builder in his time, and he built that bridge. Our guide spun drums saying his prayers, which is a common thing they do. We went to the National Museum, which is housed in a 7-story watchtower called a Tazong that was built in 1649. Inside the museum, there was Bhutanese art, including bronze statues and paintings that covered more than 1,500 years of Bhutan's cultural heritage. The museum was really good. Located downhill from there, we visited the Ringpong Zong, a fortress built in 1600s to defend Paro from Tibetan invasions. A zong is a high-walled fortress. Each valley has one, and today they serve as religious, military, administrative, and social centers for different districts. Adjacent to the zong was the Yamai Zem. Oh. Okay, so we were still in the museum. Now we're in the zong. Okay, ready? There's the bridge. Okay. So adjacent to the Zong was the Yamai Zampa covered wooden bridge, 66 feet long. The highlight of our trip was visiting Paro Taksang, better known as the Tiger's Nest Monastery, which was built on a cliff face of 10,236 feet. The legend is that Guru Rinpoche flew into Bhutan on a mythical tigress and meditated in the cave before bringing Buddhism to Bhutan. It took us 7 hours to climb up and back, and that was even with a mule ride halfway up. It was extremely difficult because of the altitude and countless stairs. So you have to go up, then down, and then up again.
This is at the halfway point.
Are you climbing or down?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, go ahead.
And they don't allow you to take pictures inside, so I got this one off the internet, and it's pretty much what it was like.
Yeah, Dong, they bring.
Yeah.
Okay, after the hike, the hotel
So now,
After the hike, the hotel provided us with a fabulous barbecue lunch along the Paro River. But we were so exhausted that we only sampled a small amount before we asked them to take us back to the hotel so we could take a nap. If you go, you need hiking boots. And you can ride a mule up to the halfway point, eat lunch at the cafeteria there, which is a wonderful view of the Tiger's Nest, and then take another mule back down. However, you need to make reservations for both mule rides. And unless you're in really good shape, we recommend skipping the hike, but seeing the unique country. What impressed us most about the country that we saw were the traditional buildings. They are beautiful and unique. They all have a similar architectural style due to the government architecture guidelines. The new buildings are made of concrete and have intricate painted woodwork around windows. All buildings must be constructed with vari-colored wood frontages, small arched windows, and sloping roofs. In keeping with their traditional appeal to the country, there's a mandatory dress code. Traditional garments are worn while working. Men wear go, a knee-length robe tied at the waist, and women wear an ankle-length dress, the kera, which is clipped at the shoulders with a long-sleeve blouse worn underneath. Casual clothing is worn on personal time. In the early evenings at our hotel, there was entertainment with music and/or traditional dances. The Cham dances were entertaining. They depict protective deities, legendary figures, and challenges to social norms. Some dancers wear colorful face masks and costumes. Other rituals include prayer flags that are hung everywhere to spread goodwill and compassion. In fact, 108 white flags are hung 3 times within 49 days after a person dies.
that's what these flags are.
We saw fields being used for subsistence farming. Most people are vegetarian. They do not kill anything. All the meat is imported. We got to eat meat, but and they will. Some do there too. Cattle plow fields and eat grass. They're not killed. Cows are used for milk and cheese. A favorite dish is yak cheese with red peppers. And there's a picture of those things hanging down. Those are the rat cheese. I mean, the yak cheese. Speaking of food, it's very spicy. They eat a lot of hot peppers. One of our waiters told us that she started feeding hot peppers to her 3-year-old. Yeah. We highly recommend the Amakora hotel chain. The service was impeccable. That's one of the hotels. The accommodations were zen-like and the food was fabulous. You can arrange an all-inclusive vacation with them with modifications if desired. We did their Tiger's Nest Odyssey package. Bhutan is a beautiful country with clean air, tall mountains, pine trees, and rivers. It just was wonderful.
The people are happy, caring, and extremely helpful. They make sure all your needs are met. We would love to go back and enjoy the peaceful surroundings and hospitality. It's hard to get there.
So our last stop for tonight was India, and that was a place Lisa didn't want to go to really at all. And I did. I used to watch Amazing Race, and they always would go there, and it was always and I said, oh, I want to go there. Better?
Yep.
Better? There we go. So we made several stops in India. We went to Kerala, in the city of Kochi, Mumbai, and Agra. So Kerala was interesting. Well, it was all of India was interesting, and it was 97 degrees, 100% humidity. It's in the southwest corner, and we were there in April. It was, they said, the hottest month of the year. And in fact, one of the people on the crew on the ship who was from India, she says, oh yeah, I can't stand the weather here, it's just horrible. But it'll be cooler when we get to Mumbai, because I'm from Mumbai. Remember that. So anyway, population is about 35 million for the entire state. 50% are Hindu, 30% are Muslim, and 19% Christian. We just didn't see any Hindu temples. But we saw quite a few mosques and quite a few Christian churches. And like other parts of India that we visited, if you had a vacant lot, you had trash. And it just was really something. The street vendors, while interesting to look at, were very pushy and aggressive. And there was a lot of sewage smells. Other than that, it was aces. Oh, well, yeah. So, I skipped ahead. Sorry, doesn't matter. So, according to our guide, Kerala is the jewel of South India due to its low birth and death rates, high level of literacy and education, and serene atmosphere. Interestingly, 90% of marriages are arranged, and it has to do with the different castes. They just want to make sure that you marry into the right group, even though castes have been illegal for decades. We're told that the girls used to get married at 18 and the boys at 21, but now both tend to wait till they're 25 after they've worked for a while or gone to college. And unlike other states in India, Kerala still has a two-child rule, but there aren't any repercussions if a child has a couple of them more. Unlike the other 27 states in India, since 1956, Kerala has had a communist government, which refuses to allow outside big companies to come in. So their major source of income is from expat workers. They export workers out of the country. 30% of the workers go to Dubai for jobs. Women nurses work in other countries. And most of the kids who go to college go abroad for college, and they don't return. They stay wherever they are for better living conditions and higher paying jobs. And then all that money is shipped back. Our tour guides bragged about these facts, but we were thinking how devastating it will eventually be, because the people are going to lose their contact with home. And at some point, their children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren are not going to be sending money home. But on a happier note, we went to the Alapuz canals, known as the Venice of the East. Isn't every canal known as the Venice of something? And we rode on these traditional houseboats, which were really cool, called a kettleum. They were once used to transport rice, spices, and other goods to the port of Kochi. Today they're used as overnight accommodations, pleasure boats, and are not allowed to travel after 5:30 so that the fishermen can actually go out and fish. They're made of coconut, areca nut, and bamboo trees. Ours was lovely. This is the side of our boat. And it's just interesting to see. And they're nice. They were really nicely appointed. They had a full 3-bedroom. This boat had 3 bedrooms, a And each bedroom had a full bathroom with air conditioning, which wasn't on, and we weren't in the bedrooms anyway. And then a small kitchen in the back. So it seems like the thing to do here is to go down the canal or the river and watch the world go by, and we certainly enjoyed it. The countryside was pretty. It's very low. Actually, I don't think we have a picture of it, but we're higher than the surrounding landscape. And this is a woman who was doing her wash, beating it with a rock. The next day we went to St. Francis Church, which is famous because Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese explorer, was buried there one time. And that's really, it's interesting. They don't let you use them, but you can see along the side there's some things hanging down, and those, I don't remember the term for them, but they used to have a guy who would pull on them, and that was how you cooled the building, which I've seen in old-time movies. So walking around, we saw these really lovely old colonial buildings that were from the Portuguese, Dutch, and British. And then we went to the Chinese fishing village, or it's not really a village, it's in Fort Kochi, which there is no fort, but it's Fort Kochi. And they have these, when the Chinese came in, they built these nets, and everybody's continued to operate them. So they dropped them down into the water. You can see the nets down there, and then they pull them back up. We watched them work it, and no fish came out, but there's a lot of them. Each net takes a team of about 6. And we didn't see any fish coming out of the nets, but we certainly saw them and smelled them on the side of the water. We then went to this place. Gave that away too soon. Matan Cherry Palace, and this was a gift built by the Portuguese because they destroyed a fort that the Raja had. So they built them this as a way of saying we're sorry. It's a very interesting place. Nice carvings, interesting ceiling, paintings on the walls. Just a really, really nifty place. Some of the traditional clothes that the big shots wore. Of course, you got carried everywhere you went. And this is an ivory palanquin. And this one is a houdah that you would put on top of an elephant to get around. So, and next to this place is the Pardisi Synagogue. And it was built in 1568 by Portuguese refugees, and it's the oldest functional synagogue in the British Commonwealth. It has 2 gold crowns, which I never saw, 4 Torah scrolls, an intricately carved teak arch, paintings portraying Jewish history, copper plates inscribed with the community's Charter of Independence, Belgian glass chandeliers, and a brass rail pulpit. There are not enough Jews in the town for them to actually have services. Anyway, and then white porcelain tiles from China. And this is the area around. It was one of the nicest, cleanest places we went to in India. So in Mumbai, which used to be called Bombay, it's on India's west coast and is the capital of the state of Maharashtra, and the largest city in India. There are more than 20 million people in Mumbai. 80% follow Hinduism, 14% are Muslim, and the balance are Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, and Jains. And our contact on the ship was wrong because it was 104 degrees and 100% humidity. It was horrible. This is the University of Mumbai State University. and it was modeled after the University of London, and on the left-hand side you can see the tower, the clock tower, which was modeled after Big Ben in London. And then this is the train station, Victoria Terminus Station, built in 1888, has a blend of Victorian and Victorian Gothic Revival and traditional Indian architectural styles. The dome is 160 feet tall. UNESCO World Heritage Site. It is the busiest railway station in India. There are over 1,200 trains serving 3 million passengers a day. Both the university and the VT station were glorious from the outside. We wish we could add more time. It's been there, up close. From there we went to the Churchgate Railroad Station, and outside of that are these guys called Daba Wallas. So a Daba is a lunch, and a Walla is a man who delivers a lunch. And they started it in 1890. One guy started with about 100 people, and it's now between 4,500 and 5,000 of these workers a day. They start in the people's town, and the family makes the lunch for the person, and then bicycles take them to the train station. They get loaded on a train, get brought into this station, and then these guys are busy sorting all the different ones so that they can then be delivered to the office building of the person whose lunch it is. And these lunches are in these stacked containers, which each layer has a different thing: salad, bread, rice, curry, dessert. And then at the end of the day, the Dagwalas pick up these empty containers, and the process gets repeated and shipped back home. From there, we went across to the Churchgate Railroad Station to get on the train. And if you notice the doors are open, it's because there aren't any doors. And this is first class. You can see all those bars in the back. That's to keep the second class people from our deluxe space. And I was told the difference is they don't let as many people in, and the seats are packed. And so you can see these men, that train is moving, it's not stopped. They just kind of hang out the side because it's a little cooler, I guess. And the train doesn't stop. When it gets to the station, it slows down. And when it gets slow, the guy tells you to jump, and you jump. It's pretty good. She got a little nervous because some of the people were a little slow moving. So from there, we went to the Adobe Ghat. Now, this is the giant laundry service. It's an open-air laundry service, started in 1890. And there are others in Southeast Asia, but this is considered the world's largest. 15 acres, and they initially used it to serve the Persian and the English populations. But when India gained its independence in 1947, the washers, known as Dhobi Wallas. So Dhobi is what you're doing, washing, and a walla is a person who does dhobis. So Dhobi Wallas started to hand wash clothes and linens for Mumbai's hotels, spas, hospitals, and homes. And there's a separate sterilization area for medical laundry. 500,000 pieces are completed each day by 700 Dhobi Wallas. It was fascinating to watch it. I mean, they have these rows of concrete tanks, and they soak the clothes in that, and then they pull the clothes out and they beat them with a stone and rinse them, and then they hang them, and they don't use clothes hangers. They actually twist the rope and they shove it in between the twisted ropes until they dry. And after they're dried, they're ironed and then they're returned. There's a few electric washers and dryers, not a lot, and the irons are charcoal powered. People doing the work are from lower castes. There's about 200 families who have held these jobs for generations, and they live underneath all of this in this area. From there, we went to the Gandhi Museum. And it's a historical building that Gandhi stayed in when he was visiting the city from 1917 to 1934. A friend of his owned it, and he was allowed to stay there. And this is where he initiated many of his philosophies of nonviolence in the struggle for independence, and also did a 4-day fast to try to restore peace when the Indians were fighting amongst each other. Inside there were shelves of books, photo memorabilia through his life, from his childhood till his assassination. On the second floor, through glass, on the left and the right, you can see the room he would stay in. It had 2 of his spinning wheels because he believed that the people should not buy anything from the British, to boycott British-made goods, so therefore they should become independent and do their own spinning and make their own clothes. It's a very interesting museum. Along the Mumbai waterfront is the Gateway of India. It's an 85-foot tall arch. It was built to commemorate the visit of King George V, who was the first monarch and the emperor of India, to come to India. And he was coronated in 1911. They started this in 1924, and it wasn't done when he showed up, so they gave him a cardboard replica. But it was a 6-foot tall cardboard replica. So, and since then, the arch has been used to receive visitors and guests, and it was also where the British troops marched through to leave India in 1948. One of the reasons we took this trip was to see the Taj Mahal. And the cruise line flew all of the world cruise passengers from Mumbai to Agra for the day so we could go to the Taj Mahal. And it was also hot, 90 degrees. It wasn't as humid though, but it was hot. The Taj Mahal is a mausoleum. Nobody lives there. It was built for Shah Jahan's favorite wife, Mumtaz Mahal, who died at 39, giving birth to their 14th child. She had had 3 prior miscarriages in their 19 years of marriage. That was a busy lady. And the mausoleum was built from 1631 to 1648. And Shah also resides there. His body resides there next to her. It's in the middle of a 22-acre complex. The mausoleum is topped by a large dome, 240 feet high, surrounded by 4 lesser domes. The architect used Persian, Islamic, and Indian style designs with white marble inlays, inlaid with semi-precious stones, in geometric and floral designs, and then Arabic calligraphy, which you can see in the center going up. Calligraphy from the Quran. In addition to the tomb, there's a majestic gate that you go through. This one here, on the left side, is a scene at Taj from through the gate. And directs your eyes to the arch in front of the mausoleum, a garden with 4 minarets and a reflecting pool. And red sandstone buildings you can see on the left, which is, I think, the mosque. There's a matching building on the other side, which is just built to match. It doesn't actually have any function. But everything is very nicely done. Perfect symmetry, symbolizing balance and harmony, and symbolism of earthly life, the afterlife, and enduring love. It's another UNESCO World Heritage Site and well deserved. We like what we saw in India, but as they say, India stands for I'll never do it again. But I think we do it again. I would. As a footnote, you need a visa for all the countries you talked about, except for Easter Island or Rapa Nui. And that's Chile, so you don't need a visa there. And in addition, Bhutan charges $100 a day per person tourist fee, which is well worth it. But you won't need any foreign money because it's all US dollars and credit cards are accepted everywhere. And I did a vlog on the whole trip. If you want to see what I posted, you can go there. And,
Speaking of his blog, I have helped many travelers with their world cruise and other cruises, and by Dave's blog every day, I was thankful because I wanted to keep track on how they were doing. And I knew that it was a positive experience, but I had to challenge myself by doing my to-do list, and then, oh goody, I get to look at Dave and Lisa's blog as my, so thank you for doing that.
Sure.
Q&A.
Questions? Yeah.
I have a lot of questions.
Okay.
What about the cruise? You travel, you said you've done trips of over 100 days, you don't get stir crazy. The other question is, when you're in port, how long are you typically able to see things? And you also mentioned that you flew to Bhutan. Is that all included in the cruise, or that these are all extras? No, my question.
Okay, so let me start with the last one, because I can remember that last one.
Okay.
So
Mic up.
you pay extra for the Bhutan thing. It wasn't cheap, but it's a spectacular experience. There were two of us. We were it. We had a driver and a guide every single day taking us everywhere.
But did the cruise ship, was it in port some other place?
It was in port someplace else. It was moving on. We got off in Bangkok on the third day in Bangkok we left and flew out. So we missed one day in Bangkok, and then they went to another stop in an island in Thailand, and then they had a sea day or two, and then they ended up in Singapore, and we got to Singapore at the night of the first day, so we didn't have one day in Singapore, which we spent recuperating. So here's a few things. So this is our cabin. So it's fine. It's about a couple hundred square feet. It's not real big. There's our bathroom. And in the bottom right, you can see my hand showing you the size of the sink. The sink was quite small. The shower was, if the shower had been any smaller, you would have been wearing the shower curtain as a towel. But,
Oh, you're wearing the same thing!
You never change your clothes?
Laundry service.
Well, the cruise costs so much money, they can't afford it.
One of the perks we got on as world cruisers is we each got a bag of laundry once a week, and as much as you could stuff in. And then they also had a free laundry, which they included the soap pods and
everybody.
yeah, for everybody. But
Yeah.
I mean, there was if you wanted to do self-service laundry.
Yeah.
And then we got, because of our cabin class, we got once a week we got dinner in one of the two specialty restaurants for us to pick. Second question. Well, no, you had three. Did it cost
How long
extra?
did you typically stay in these ports?
Okay, it varied. We had a number of overnights. Some of them we were shorter in. I'd say on average it stayed longer in a port than most other cruises we've taken. I'd say in general they were longer. Some places they were shorter, but we overnighted in Moorea, which is pretty uncommon for ships to do that. So I'd say that they tended to be longer extended stays.
I was just going to say, to add to that. So we would get in port like 7:30 in the morning, and then we would leave at maybe 6 that evening. So you had a good day to do some exploring in the port or outside the port. There were some people who took private excursions they found on the internet and would, plan ahead and just go and spend the day, and they were able to come back in time, and they did miss the ship.
Yeah, so any cruise ship, I don't care where you go, any cruise ship, you don't have enough time in port, and you're limited how much you can see. But on the other hand, you can go to some really awful places and walk off the ship or stand on the ship and look down and go, I think we'll just skip this one. So we like cruise ships for places we're kind of sketchy about. In general, we've always ended up enjoying the places. So it's not like, but you have that comfort of being able to run away.
Well, just an addendum in regards to India, because one of the reasons I was so leery about going is because I heard people got sick there, eating food or drinking water, whatever they did, they got sick. So I said, okay, I really do want to see India, but I'm only going to go if I go on a cruise ship so I can eat safely on the ship and drink the water. So that was one of my caveats. But in all honesty, we actually did eat in a hotel, a couple of hotels there that the ship arranged. So I felt confident eating the food and drinking the water. And it was, purified water. So we never got sick. So that was a good experience. And what was the last question? I'm sorry. I can't remember.
Do you like the cruise line?
We did,
Oh,
very much.
And this was our first time on Azamara. I would put a plug in for them because of all the cancellations we had that Dave mentioned at the beginning of the talk. They actually refunded us any excursion expense we incurred, and also our travel fare for the times, the days we didn't go. That's a whole other story, and I won't get into it. But we got off in Dubai. Some other people stayed on and went around Africa. So that's another story. But anyway, they were so good about that. They had meetings for everybody to listen to what they were going to do, when they were going to do it, and how they were going to go about doing refunds, making arrangements for all of us to shift our schedules around.
Yes.
I don't have a question, but for those of you that have not followed or looked at their blog, I have to thank them for the incredible amount of work that went into that on a regular basis. It's almost like we were there. And they even took time, it was usually Dave that replied, to answer questions that I wrote on there. I just freaked out about the fact that they took the time to do that, because I know you didn't have the time, you took the time, and I appreciated it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What was your favorite meal and where?
Favorite?
Meal and where?
Do you want to say Bhutan?
Yeah.
Is that Bhutan?
No, this is all from the ship.
Oh, okay.
The ship was really quite good in that area, especially West Coast.
You imagine, there's like close to 500, how many people? 600 people. And the food looks like, an individual chef prepared each dish. It was really impressive.
Not if you eat the buffet, it's like.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a different story.
Yeah, the food was really good. I'd say Bhutan because it was the most interesting. I had the Bhutanese set at the hotel the first night. I didn't have it the second night. I didn't know that everything was made with red peppers. But it was really good and really, really well done.
It was
Yeah, it was really nice. So this is some of our,
Where were most people from?
the United States. About 120 out of the, there's 100, so the ship holds 690 something. There was 195 of us world cruisers, and everybody else was segment cruisers, meaning they got on, so Fort Lauderdale to Lima was a segment. So 2/3 of the people got on for that segment, then they got off, and new people would get on and they get off. I'd say the one complaint I have about the cruise ship, I'll probably think of some more, but it was a world cruise, but it was really the entertainment and the events were scheduled around the segment cruisers. So the first night of every new segment was seafood buffet. And then there would be a certain, it was not exactly the same day in sequence other than seafood buffet, but they were repeating those things. And the singers and dancers had, I think, four sets, four shows they did on it.
I think there were more, but I know.
No, but I mean, they had the four from New York or wherever they learned them, and they repeated every year. And then, in fairness, the singers and dancers and the cruise director staff were all performers, so they would put together special shows to make it different. So that helped.
Oh, and then you had people
And then they
come
brought
on.
in people.
Comedians, magicians,
Singers.
singers,
So the
local
entertainment all-
dancers. They did folk dances. They bring those people on from the ports that we were visiting. Something else in regards to food, because you were asking about that. This is the
Buffet.
window
Oh,
cafe.
this is actually the pool bar.
Oh, this is which just goes into the window cafe. But one of the things that I like, and I think we overdid it, we found out towards halfway maybe that we should have done more of the formal dining room, but they would have like French night or Indonesian night or Italian night in the buffet, and I wanted to try all these different foods, but it was
And then we found out in the dining room they have one.
yeah.
And if the ship was kind of familiar to you, if you've ever been on Oceana, one of their small ships, it's the same boat. I mean, it's not the same boat, but it's the same. Renaissance Cruise Lines had 8 ships. When they went bankrupt, Oceana ended up with 4. Now Azamara has 4. If you went on the Pacific Princess at one point, it was this ship actually.
One more thing we didn't mention was the White Nights. Do you have a picture of that?
I mean,
Once a segment, they would have a festive occasion in the evening where you would have dinner outdoors around the pool. And the idea is everyone is to dress in white. And the staff at the, not the completion of the dinner, I guess it was, before the music and band started for dancing, they would parade with their flags from the countries they're from around the perimeter of the pool. So it was really, really a beautiful thing to see.
How many segments were there?
10. If we'd have been on the whole thing, it would have been 10. We ended up on 8. They would do quite a number of these, like the White Nights, but other nights they would have things out on the specialty buffets, and they'd get the barbecues out, and they had dim sum one night, and often would have sushi. They always had sushi, sashimi and stir-fry station. This is the Valentine's Day desserts they got out. They did this some sort of sugar thingamajigger. I don't know. It looked like coral, but I mean, really beautiful work. And then some of the, so they have these things called As Amazing Evenings if you go to a particular stop. This was in Cozumel, and they had this whole platform built. And they had all of these singers and dancers and performers, and it was just spectacular. This is the Chinese New Year, I think. This is one of the White Nights. That might have been Valentine's Day, I don't really know. And for the world cruisers, one night they took deck 5 and on each side, on the outside, and they had a special dinner for just the world cruisers, and that was really lovely. And then this is White Night, where they correct. So instead of doing the traditional march of the baked Alaska, they do this instead. And I prefer it because I'm not a big fan of the baked Alaska.
They also do, on occasion, they do a wonderful brunch, which is amazing. I don't know how they do all these special foods.
And the crew were some of the nicest crew members ever.
Yes, Michael.
Now, when you get off the ship to visit different ports, and you catch up with the ship somewhere else,
Yeah,
Yes.
that's how we did it.
did you take like a day suitcase or something like that?
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I was gonna
no,
say
every-
locked up.
No, yeah, every outdoor one or excursion we did, every excursion we did was through the ship. So our room was there, and all of our stuff was there, and then we took just enough to get us by a toiletry bag and
Overnight.
an overnight bag or whatever we needed. So we did 2 of those. The first one was the Galapagos, which was great. And so we flew out of Panama to Quito, and then stayed overnight there and had a day in Quito seeing the sights, which was really interesting. And then flew from there to Galapagos, and we did 3 days in the Galapagos. And they flew us then to Lima, and we picked up the ship there. And then on Bhutan, like I said earlier, we got off in Bangkok and then picked up the ship again in Singapore. And the Amanpura people for the Tiger's Odyssey, it was a lot of money. But we got off the ship at 4 in the morning, I think, and they drove us to, we had a driver and an attendant. They drove us to the airport. The woman took us into the gate, or to the check-in counter. There was a guy from Amanpura there and said, "You've already been checked in, just give me your luggage, and I put you on the right side, the correct side of the plane so you can see the Himalayas, and there will be somebody at the airport to pick you up." And there was somebody there at the airport to pick us up, and there was somebody everywhere we went. We never gave anybody any money. Well, we tipped our guide and driver at the end, but never gave a credit card or anything. It was all just completely done. It was just spectacular.
That's another thing, the gratuities were included, you know, that's a normal question people have. Were they included with your package? And it was, so you didn't have to run around and give out money. You could if you wanted to do something
We
extra.
did give some extra to
We
some
did.
of the people. And then it also included
Wine and beer.
and spirits.
Yeah.
You can buy extra. One of the things they gave us as a bonus for the world cruise was they gave us the premium drink package, which ended up being, it was a $20 a day per person deal. And for another $7 a day, you could get the ultimate drink package you found out after.
We don't drink that.
For no extra dollars a day, you got unlimited wine, beer, and spirits. And you
Yes.
just you had a smaller selection of things,
Yeah.
so you didn't get as much stuff. But it was, great.
Mike has a question.
One more. On the Galapagos, did you see bizarre creatures and stuff like that?
Lisa was there.
Boobies.
What?
Blue-footed boobies.
Oh,
And
okay.
the marine iguanas with all the salt stuff on their heads, and the turtles, and some sharks, and some rays, and
Yeah,
tortoises.
yes.
You-
Lots of tortoises.
Lot of tortoises.
Different, I didn't realize there were different types.
Types of tortoises, yes, there's more than one Galapagos tortoise. Yeah, it was really interesting, yeah.
Just one more question. In speaking to people that had cruised obviously a lot that you met, what did people say about different cruise lines overall?
That's an
What was their
excellent
preference?
We specifically talked to some people who, a surprising number of people on the ship who were world cruisers had done world cruises before. And some of them, a fair number of them were Oceania people, because Oceania is kind of in the same marketplace. It's sort of the same price. And the ships, the little ships that Oceania has, not their bigger ones, are the same ships. So they have 2 specialty dining restaurants because they were all built the same. And some of them thought Azamara was better, and some of them thought Oceania was better. We've never been on Oceania, so I can't really say. We had somebody who had done a Viking world cruise, and they really liked it. But then there was a number of people who had done the world cruise with Azamara in 2018, and they were back. So I mean, it's,
It's a matter of taste.
You know, if you, yeah.
And pride.
I think
Yeah.
the biggest, I'd say that one of the, if you're claustrophobic, it's kind of a tight ship. I mean, this is kind of as tall as the special, you know, what do you call them, the public spaces are, the ceiling to here. Maybe it's probably a foot taller than that, but not a lot. But but all of the passenger decks they're about that much above the top of the door jamb. So it's at least because you know, in a bathroom on a ship, you have a step up. She could touch the ceiling. So it's a little tight, but yeah, I would say if you can afford it, they have a cabin on Azamara called the Continental Suite, and it's the size. It's 1.5 times larger than our cabin, and it has a much bigger bathroom. It also gets butler service. You get unlimited dinners in the specialty restaurants. You get more laundry. You get 2 Wi-Fi devices instead of 1. Their Wi-Fi was really good, by the way, except for some of the places, but for the most part, it's quite good. And so it costs a little more than a regular balcony, but I think it's probably worth the difference if you can afford it.
Being this was our first world cruise, I don't know if others do it, maybe you could answer this, but we had a designated staff person who was the world cruise coordinator. I don't know his exact title, and he was really awesome. He sent out messages every day, sent out all kinds of things to keep us abreast of what was going to happen. Is that normal? I don't know.
Yes, depending on, you touched a very important part. I have helped other world cruisers plan their adventures, and thank you so much for doing your blog, because I was like, how are they doing? And we kept in contact via email, and I'm like, how's it going? But depending on your experience and what you're looking for, we can coordinate according to your experience. So Lisa and Dave went on Azamara. I've had multiple people going on biking. I can help you with that. I can let you know what the experience will be with multiple cruise lines. As far as cruise crew members, yes, they do assign world cruise members according to the crew, to the world cruisers. So, and that makes a big difference. So, yeah.
Something that we discovered in Australia was somebody forgot to take his wallet when we were shopping. I had my phone, and I said, I've got Apple Pay. So I said, here, and I put it on the tap, and it said denied. I put it on the tap, and it said denied. Shortly thereafter, I got an email from the credit card company saying your credit card has been locked. And we found out that Apple Pay is considered a cardless transaction. So therefore, depending on where you are in the world, they may or may not decline it. And I ended up having to contact the credit card company. And we're talking, if I do it on the regular cell phone service, we have T-Mobile, so we paid extra, but it was 25 cents a minute. But on our T-Mobile plan, and whoever you have, see if you've got Wi-Fi cell service, whatever that's called. If you turn that on, you can make phone calls for nothing anywhere in the world if you've got Wi-Fi. So I spent some quality time with the credit card company getting our credit card unlocked, but found out that sometimes the newest thing isn't necessarily always cracked up to be. That was a surprise. Yeah, we had a great time and we really enjoyed it.
Over here.
Hi, very much enjoyed your presentation this evening. My wife and I were on the Princess Cruise around the world. Started in January here in Los Angeles and out that year in May. Not the calendar. And our experience experience there was fantastic. To your point about the entertainment repeating itself, I think there was only 1 or 2 shows that repeated themselves on the 111 days we were on this Princess Cruise. And they must have done something amazing there because a few weeks into the cruise, they announced, okay, we're not going to go through the Red Sea and Suez Canal. This was supposed to have gone through Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Abu Dhabi, the Red Sea, and through Suez into the Mediterranean. So they decided, okay, we're not going to go through the Red Sea, we're going to reroute the ship. So after Australia, the last port there, we went to Mauritius.
Okay.
Off of South Africa, and then to Cape Town for 2 nights, then Namibia, and then Cabo Verde, into Morocco, into the Mediterranean to the west.
Yeah.
And then all the way across to Turkey and multiple stops and things like that. But they kept the entertainment going. So it must have been a lot of rearranging the schedules.
Right. Yeah, Azamara actually kept the ship going. We chose to get off. But, they did go around Africa, but because they sold so many segments, they needed to populate segment 10, which was from Venice to Barcelona, because they needed to recoup some money, because they had to cancel 8 and 9. Whatever, yeah, that's not about right.
Yeah,
They had to cancel 8 and 9, so all those people who were on those segments, which was 2/3 of every leg, had to get refunded. So they went around Africa, but it was in 34 days, and they had 6 stops, and the stops were very short. They were essentially fueling stops. And we just decided, there was one place they were going to, I think, Cape Verde and Canary Islands we hadn't been to, but everything else they were going to, we've been to. And so we just thought, well, we'll just go home.
Dave and Lisa actually emailed me when that happened, and they asked me what I thought they should do. And being in the business and trying to help them get the best advice I could, I went, get the refund, get off the ship, and get back home. And I think that was
They were offering, next year's same itinerary, and you could, book that instead of getting the refund. So they did have different options. But there was one thing, and I'll get you clued into this. There are, from what I understand, designated world cruise ships. That means everybody on that cruise is on for the entire time, which sounds like maybe that Viking trip you were referring to. Ours wasn't sold out like that. So that's why in our case, there are these people coming on and coming off, and the repeat performers and so forth that we were alluding to earlier. So if you're really interested in a true world cruise, that means everybody is on for the whole duration, then maybe Donna or Ray can help you with that, because that does make a difference. And
there's multiple days. People think, oh, world cruise, it's around the world, from LA to LA. No, that's not true. I have helped multiple travelers with different destinations. I had Lisa and Dave, and then I had 2 ladies that went from LA to London, and then now I have another 2 ladies going from LA to. So if you're thinking that world cruise means a certain number of days, it does not. They customize according to your availability. So, and there's different, they went on Azamara, and I loved helping you with that and picking out your cabin. And then I helped them during their whole voyage during what happened, and I was glad to do that. If you are interested, there are different dates or number of days that you can pick, a number of different cruise lines. So there isn't one particular number of dates. There are options, and that's our job, is to help you
Thanks.
at no cost. Because I want to hear that you came back and you had a great time.
Yeah, we did. We had a good time. And, you know, we did all of our longer excursions before, we're always on Holland America, and when we did what they call a grand voyage, they made sure that they rotated the crews out, the dancers and stuff out. But in fairness to Azamara, they've got 4 ships, so they don't have, you know, 10 or 20 ships that they can shift people from one ship to another ship so that the shows are ever changing. They've got one crew, you know, 4 ships, and kind of they do what they do. And they also use the entertainment staff, and the singers and dancers also do a bunch of the games and things on them. So they learn to do the games. So replacing them doesn't make sense to me, but according to the cruise director, replacing them becomes a problem because they get trained in whatever they're doing, and then they bring somebody else in and they have to do it now, or whatever. But yeah, you're right. And but on the other hand, you know, it's a smaller ship, 690 as opposed to, I don't know how many were on your
1,200.
1,200. So that's not too bad, yeah. But I mean, some of these ships, you know, are 2,000 to 3,000 people.
Yeah.
And, you know, we like the smaller size. So, anyway, I think we worn you out.